Tell me about, the beginnings of Arnold Thurmond. How, we don't have to go as far back when you were a little boy, but, we could go to, Du Bois High School.
Du Bois High School in Mount Hope, West Virginia, was named after the great W.E. Du Bois. Mm-hmm. And they believed in the teachers that I had and everything. They believed in his principles, and that is, it was only through education that you could make advancement. They stressed that each generation should be better than the last. And I had excellent teachers. They didn't play, made you do your work, and was very tough love, as I would say. And I appreciated them very much. And the same way with elementary teachers. I had great elementary teachers. And so, in fact, it took a whole village to raise a kid, and particularly in elementary school. You couldn't do anything in the neighborhood without your parents knowing it. And everyone, and we respected the elderly, and I had great respect for elderly because I learned so much from them. And that's basically how I got started. I did not have principal called me in the office in my senior year and said that you should be going to college. And not only that, they helped me to go to college. And they said to me, well, Hampton has a work year. So you will go down there for the first year and you won't get any money for it, but it won't take too many classes, but you'll be working, but they'll save that money for your tuition for the next year.
And this was
42.
in the heart of
43.
And this was during segregation.
During segregation.
And you were at Du Bois High School. You were taught by all black teachers.
All black teachers.
And it was an all black school.
All black school. We had I'd say maybe 300 or 400 students was consolidated from surrounding coal fields, companies, coal fields.
So you had told me that your father was a coal miner?
Yes.
Okay.
And so from there, and he would say to me, my folks would say to me, now, you get your education, otherwise if you don't want to be doing what I'm doing, because you see how hard it is. We have strikes. Particularly you go in the mines, you don't know whether you're coming out or not sometimes, it's very dangerous. And so then they stress education to me.
So just curious, when you were younger, as far as the education, were you getting good grades? I mean, were you doing a lot of reading? Were you studying? Were you doing homework?
Oh, yes. What we used to do, and I went to a 2-room school. Well, each teacher had 1 through 4, had 4 classes. And my elementary teacher straightened me out very quickly because you had to do your work. And I used to turn my sheet of papers in. I'd write upside down, all across. I wouldn't have it neat. And she would say, I'm not going to accept this. You're going to do it. But I would always come back at her and say, well, it's right, isn't it? It's right. That has nothing to do with it, young man. You're going to do this paper over. So I fought with her for a while, but I couldn't go out for recess until everybody go out there for recess, and I'm just sitting in there doing my paper over, and she taught me. It's a lifelong lesson. Always review your stuff before you turn it in. And I was not a bad student in elementary school, but when I hit high school, I was more mature, and I had to begin to think about what I was going to do in life. And then I settled down and got good grades.
So Was it that the principal saw something in you, or was it that the principal just took it upon themselves to let everybody know, at different times that, hey, you're going to go on to college, or you're going to go on to do this, or you're going to go on to do that?
Well, I don't know what it was, whether it was some of the teachers or who it was. He just called me in the office and said, your grades are good, your college material, you should be going on to school. Mm-hmm. And from that day on, that was helped me a lot. And I had, help from, I called myself an athlete at one time, and I had Bluefield State had offered us the football scholarship to some of us, but I had wanted to go to Hampton because I was interested in always mechanical things, working, with things, and I went down there and majored in the industrial arts, and that's how I got started. And then, the Army got drafted, and for the World War II, but I went back to Hampton after I got out of service.
So, all right, you're in school at Hampton,
right?
Pursuing a dream,
right?
And then you get drafted for a war,
right?
And like we talked about, everything was segregated back then. So just give me an idea of what you were thinking about going to fight a war that you didn't start, but that you weren't going to be treated equally,
right?
Whether you're in the Army or out of the Army. Because you said that the Army was segregated at that time.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Well, what we were thinking about, many of our soldiers, that when we would have time, would sit down and talk and lunch in the mess hall or whatever, we would talk about our future and saying that when we get home, we were not going to take what Mom and Pop would take, and we're going to try to change things. And that was the forerunner. Some pushes had been made before, on civil rights, and so they were questioning, and we were questioning and everything, and trying to stand up for our rights. And that was the impetus for us to see that things would change and everything.
So you're saying that you're over in France and Normandy, and you're thinking about the treatment that you were receiving, or that you had seen over in the United States.
Oh yeah. Well, it would the same things happen in France, in a sense, too. We would be in a village or something, and it just so happened when I was in high school that I had 2 years of French in high school, and I could read a little bit of French, and I could understand some of it. And kids would come up to us sometime and ask to see our tails. White troops had told them that we had tails, but that was standard operating procedures, and when we knew that was happening, and then so, but we stuck together and did what we had to do, and then, but we had pretty much pledged that we would do whatever we could to help the next generation. Mm-hmm. And that's why I chose teaching.
So you're in high school, they offer in French, and you take French.
Right.
And then you're able to actually apply it to real life situations.
Right.
That's what we call preparation. I mean, you were prepared.
Well, that was due to my teachers and my schooling, and the teachers would not let us and kept that before us to make each generation better than the next and stress the education and all.
So, Hampton Institute, then, and I'm looking here and it says student college. It says civilian occupation and numbers. Student college electricity X02. And military occupation, it says automotive mechanic. Qualifications, rifle. And Normandy, Northern France, Ardennes, Rhineland, Central Europe. So you as a young black man living in the heart of segregation back here in the United States, actually able to travel to all these different places, vowing that you're going to make the next generation back in the States a little better.
Right.
After you got out, you actually got to go back to Hampton.
Right.
And you pursued industrial arts.
Right.
Did you set out to teach? I mean, was Hampton a teaching college at the time?
Yes, I had in the field I was in. I could have worked in private industry. I started my own business, but I wanted to teach, and felt that there was a need, particularly for males. We had plenty of males, and when it was all segregated, but it's just something that I wanted to do,
Do you think that you wanted to teach? And I think that's like the first criteria for a teacher. Do you think that it's like that? I mean, for me, I think that wanting to do something as opposed to, being forced regardless of if it's a monetary thing or what have you, but you wanted to teach.
Right.
And you had a passion. I believe you had a passion for teaching because you wanted to do it.
Right. Well, as I matured, I think back of the teachers who influenced me, and opened up things, the possibilities, and my parents and all like that, who said you can do this or you can do that, and different things. But somehow I wanted to be a teacher.
All right. So then when you got out of college, and let me ask you this: you said you wanted to go to Hampton.
Right.
Right. And why was it that you wanted to go? I mean, because, we knew you couldn't go to any of the white colleges, mm-hmm. So you had to go to a historically black college. And why is it that you wanted to go to Hampton? Well,
Booker T. Washington, he moved from Virginia into West Virginia and worked in the salt mines. And just in his autobiography, his determination and to had no formal education, and practically Hampton had started a school for blacks under General Armstrong after the Civil War, and he wanted an education so bad that he sacrificed a lot to get to Hampton. And one of the things I think of when he got to Hampton, his test, the entrance test at the time, was the lady told him, clean this room. And he went over it 2 and 3 times to make it spotless, so when she came back in with her gloves, she could find no dirt whatsoever. And then he went on, to Tuskegee and helped establish Tuskegee. He was a fellow West Virginian, and went on to Hampton. And I wanted to work with my hands, and those things inspired me to go to Hampton. there were other schools that I could have gone to.
Mm-hmm. So you were inspired by Booker T. Washington.
Right.
That's very, very interesting. All right. So once you got your degree from Hampton, what happened next?
Well, the placement office said there was an opening in Alexandria, Virginia. They're building a new high school, and they wanted a industrial arts teacher, and I applied for it and got the job. And then when I came to Alexandria, we had a veteran principal who was a father figure to me. And they also had a veteran coach there, Coach Johnson, and Mr. Pitts was the principal, and Coach Johnson was the coach. And they taught me a lot, and they were father figures to me. And so I said at the time, well, I liked them both, and I liked the school, and it's a small school similar to what I had gone through, not a large school. And I said, well, I stayed there, and after I started coaching, I couldn't let the boys down because I felt I wanted to see them, that I coached, I wanted to see them develop it, through the high school.
So Mr. Johnson was the athletic director?
Well, everything, like the athletic director and all, doing football, basketball, any sports at the time. He was doing it all, and he asked me to, at first, to handle the JV basketball team. Then later, he asked me to take the varsity, and that's what I did.
All right, so you're at Parker Gray now.
Right.
And you're teaching.
Right.
Industrial arts.
Right.
Tell me about, how did you feel being able to have an impact on other kids' lives? As per maybe some of the conversations that you had with some of your fellow Army buddies when you were in Normandy or when you were in France? It was a wonderful experience. One thing about teaching is that you don't know what kind of a teacher you are until later in life. And it's been so gratifying to me to see some of my former students come up when they see me and thank me for what I've done. And that is the most gratifying thing that could happen to you. And not only I was reminded by my principal that remember that you are a teacher first, not a coach. The teaching always, and which coaching is teaching. And that's why you see that poop sheet I gave to every kid about the things that, and they were once, if you lay the groundwork for students and tell them what you expect of them, it's very easy and gratifying and help them. And like my door was open to them at any time. They could come in and ask me, well, why I'm not playing more, and I could tell them, what you need to do and things like that. And it was a very enjoyable experience. And not only that, in my teaching in industrial arts, I would have, I would teach mechanical drawing, and I would always say to them, this is the language of engineers. And later on in life, I found out I had 2 or 3 engineers come through me and in life. And that was most gratifying, that to see them and would come to me and say, well, some of them were draftsmen, some of them were, a few of them were engineers, some of them said they were able to advance on their job because they could read blueprints and stuff. So it's been a very gratifying to me. Now, you came up to Alexandria, still during segregation. Parker Gray was an all-black school. Tell me about some of the adversity that you might have faced, being a teacher, being a black man in America during the heart of, we'll just say racism and bigotry and segregation?
Well, first of all, we looked at it as this. I'm not going to let segregation stop me from accomplishing some of my aims. For instance, in the shop, I had to plagiarize one piece of equipment to keep the other one going, and like a jigsaw or something like that. But many of the black teachers, we would spend sometimes some of our own money to get up-to-date books and things of that sort of thing. And the teachers would have at least one up-to-date desk copies of the subjects that they taught, and was there for use for everyone. And even though we may not have been able to get a book to every student, but it was there for them. They could look up stuff and everything. And segregation, in a sense that we didn't look at it as holding us back, and made us more determined to be successful and everything.
So, just listening to you say every student didn't have a book. Well, it's just. And the equipment sometimes will break down, and you had to actually make sure that it was fixed, and that support system, basically, I guess, from what we call the school system.
Well, we had books, but sometimes books were not the latest books, but we'd always have desk copies of the latest books, you see. Sometimes, as you know, every so many years you change, you get new editions, and that's what I mean. But we didn't look at segregation as stopping us from our accomplishment. And like I know that Parker Gray, they graduated, lawyers, doctors, engineers, and teachers, and so a wide variety of fields. So we didn't look at it as a handicap.
Just one question that's just in my head. You didn't let it stop you. You didn't look at it as it was going to stop you, but it was designed, in my eyes, to stop you, to hold you down, to suppress. But you were able to overcome, you and your fellow teachers. Y'all were able to actually overcome that.
And we tried to instill that in our students, and many of our students are very successful. And it goes back, you would force you to think of ways to get around, some of the segregation stuff, And we wouldn't let that stop us, from what we thought would be better for, our students and stuff like that.
Do you think that because of the adversity, it made you more creative, more resourceful?
Oh yes, it would. It will make you think of ways. How can I surmount this? And you become creative. You think and you'd work harder. And like my folks used to tell me, if you ever got a job, you're gonna have to work extra hard to be successful on it. And we didn't mind doing that, And we would try to apply that in our coaching as well. We didn't mind repetition. We would work hard on our weaknesses and keep going. And sometimes we would say, hey, if we have to go over it 4 or 5 times, we go over it until we get it, So.
Let me ask you a question. This is just a question that I'm not looking for any specific answer, but it's just one of the things I want to ask. What type of coach would you say you were?
First of all, I vowed to treat all the boys the same, and I'd like to treat people like I would like to be treated. And I was very demanding, a stickler for being on time, getting your work, and that's the main thing. I was still a teacher, in other words.
Right.
And so I would expect them to improve each year that I had them, and they did. And we were very successful. And one of the hardest thing that, as I look back, to get the students to believe in themselves, because being a small high school, I grew up in a small high school, and we maybe had 300 in the school. And when we would go to the cities like Charleston and Huntington, West Virginia, to play the other teams, like say take football, they would trot out, suit up 40 and 50 people. And we'd go out first with our about 20 or 22 people. And they would let us go out first, and then they'd come out 40 and 50 and would try to strike fear in us. But we had a wise coach, and he would say to us, they can't put but 11 on the field. And after that, we were, when you were freshmen, you're looking at how big they are and all that stuff. And then when we got over that, in fact, my high school was very successful. We went on and won 3 or 4 state championships when I was in high school. I wasn't a great player now, but I was on the team. Mm-hmm. And then I would try to tell the players here when we would play the Washington teams, have no fear. They can't put but 5 out there. And I just do your best. And they did. And we got him. So we, in fact, we started beating some of the teams regular. And then sometimes a couple of them would drop us off the schedule.
Right.
And everything. And we used to play in, like as I mentioned, Fairmount Heights. And they were a great rivalry of ours, and we used to play them regular. And they had great teams, but we would come out all right.
All right, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. I'm looking at this tip sheet, and it is not the size of a bulldog in a fight. It is the size of fight, which is heart, in the bulldog. What does that mean?
That means that not to let the size get you down. In other words, to be afraid of size. He's a big guy. So I can't. In other words, not self-defeating, and that always was one of my mottos. That was trying to instill in them, give your best at all times, and don't be afraid. We all have fear, particularly younger players. And I said, they just, teams talk a lot, trying to intimidate you, and stuff like that. Don't be, action speaks louder than words. And so you give your best. And if you lose, do you feel that you've given your best? And I'm happy. Just all I asked you, not to give your best.
All right, there's another thing on here that really strikes me. To be selected to represent our school in any extracurricular activity is a great honor, and you have underlined a great honor and should be looked upon as a privilege.
I felt that way. I seriously felt that way to you stepping into the limelight. Whether you know it or not, you are a leader. And don't bring dishonor to your family or the school. In other words, you would, sometimes I know with your conscience, sometimes when I was growing up, I knew the ground rules, but sometimes I would want to do something, and I would think about my family. Would my folks, even today, I would think, I said, would they be proud of me if I did this, bring this honor? And I looked up on family and school as great institutions.
So it was actually about team and not about the individual.
Right. All right. You wouldn't go out and bring dishonor to your family in any way. And that's the way I looked at it as a team as well. I'm still the teacher because one of the things that I learned is that my folks would declare to me that your body is a temple. You take care of your body, and had a lot of no's and no's that you wouldn't do. Eat properly, get your rest, and that's why I put it in that. I was talking about fruits and vegetables that they talk about now. Way back here, my folks were telling me that. For instance, I still remember when being 6 and 7 years old, and they say you could sit there at the table all you want to, swell up like a frog, but you're not getting up from the table till you eat all your vegetables and stuff on your plate. And so I would, that's why you see some in that poop sheet I used to see my students come in eating a donut or drinking a soda for breakfast. And I tried to tell them, I said, well, particularly you up in high school now, you can fix your own breakfast. You got some cereal, hot or cold cereal, some fruit, and all. You don't need to be trying to eat a donut every day and things like trying to emphasize to them to take care of the body and everything.
And then you have get 9 hours of sleep daily in a ventilated room.
Well, if you, that comes from my experience, a lot of it. If I don't get sufficient sleep, I'm not at my best the next day. I don't think as well. I'd have to can't concentrate as much, and I wanted them to get as much sleep and as possible and rest. Because, from nowadays, from my readings, they found out the general population doesn't get enough rest. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you go to sleep driving your car, there's an accident. But that was foremost in my mind, to take care of your body, and which is getting sleep and proper rest was part of it as well.
Well, as I look at this tip sheet, and this basketball tip sheet and the training suggestions, and listening to some of the things that you're saying, a lot of success came out of this.
Yes, it did.
It's like not only were they successful, were your students and your players successful in life and in the things that they were, trying to accomplish, but in the athletic arena, state championships, going to play for, national titles, all, like I said, during the heart of segregation when everybody was trying to hold y'all down, and y'all were able to overcome those odds.
Well, yes, and I would always sometimes say to my players, what are you going to be doing 5 years from now? or 10 years from now? What are your plans? I've tried to focus on get them to focus on what kind of job you're going to get and things of that sort. And when the civil rights movement came along and they opened up some jobs to them, it was nice to see them become not in some of those jobs, but they were good parents. And I'm so proud of some of the players that I've taught. For instance, like old folks, as we call Mr. Dawkins. He's had a wonderful, great impact on the youngsters in Alexandria, not only Mr. Dawkins, but our other graduates who stayed there and gave back to the community. And I'm very proud of them.
I'm going to read a quote, and it's interesting to me. Eddie Crane looks like a white man.
Yeah, he is.
Okay. In 1958, segregation once again, still in effect. He wrote about you, quote, Thurmond is fast gaining a reputation for turning out well-coached, well-mannered representatives of Alexandria. This is a white man.
Right.
Recognizing you and the kids that were actually coming under your tutelage. And he says, well-mannered representatives of Alexandria, the whole city. He didn't say of black Alexandria, white Alexandria. He said of Alexandria.
Right. I wanted them to be, if they were going to represent the school and the community, I wanted them to conduct themselves as such, and they did. And for instance, we would, when we went on trips, we would wear a coat and tie, and they were well-mannered. There wasn't a lot of, misbehavior, and I felt comfortable, like when we would go to the state tournament, they would compliment them on how they acted and well-mannered, and we just insisted, as my parents insisted to me, that, you do what's right and everything.
So not only were you winning, but you were winning, basically you were winning on the court and off the court.
And it was, and I'm so proud of the community that those teams were community teams. And
right, wasn't no recruiting, was it?
No, we would take whatever we had, as say even the 8th and 9th grade, and we would just, as they matured, by the time they were juniors and seniors, they were good ball players. And so we didn't have all of this recruiting like you see nowadays and everything. And we spent a lot of percentage of our time on just fundamentals, going over stuff till we got it right.
I'm looking at a photo of the Parker Gray High School basketball team before y'all departed for Nashville, Tennessee for the National Negro High School Invitational Tournament. And it says that y'all have won 37 straight games at the time of this picture.
Right.
And I'm looking at all the players. Everybody has on a blazer and slacks, if not a suit, a tie, looks like a white crisp shirt, overcoats, and the luggage is sitting in front of them, and the shoes are very, very shiny.
Well, my boys, they taught me a lot about dressing, so to speak, In other words, they like to be neat and clean, and it's just something that they wanted to do. And I was telling old folks as we were coming in, I said, used to amuse me when we would dress, getting ready to be dressing for a game, you'd see them go to the mirror and they comb their hair, and they wanted to know who has the lotion and put lotion. I said, well, now, I would enjoy them, but they liked they enjoyed being neat and clean, and when they traveled.
So, all right, industrial arts teacher at Parker Gray. Then, when you moved to GW, George Washington
Right.
High School, as a guidance counselor.
Right.
So you went from the classroom to actually being a guidance counselor.
Right. Right. After I didn't know it at the time. I had, as I mentioned to you, I had during the summers and all, I had gotten my master's, and I had at Hampton. Somehow I had taken a couple of courses in guidance to, as an elective.
As preparation, also, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I always tried to think ahead, and what if, And times I say, well, when I can't coach anymore, what other fields that I could get into? And so I did, and prepared, and became a guidance counselor, in which I was still working with kids and trying to tell them if they had problems and how to, get around them or how to solve the problems, and involve the parents and everything. And so I enjoyed it.
All right. You got your master's degree. One of the things that you told me in one of our conversations was that you had to go to Detroit to get your master's because they weren't giving out masters to black, or what was the story?
Well, during the segregation years, some of the black schools did not offer in the state a master's, so therefore we had to go out of the state, and we couldn't go to the white institutions. So we had to go out of state that would accept black students, and I happened to pick Wayne State University in Detroit because that was the heart of industry. Plus, and they had established industrial art program, and that's where that's why I went there.
And then, as a guidance counselor at GW, also assistant principal. Was that at GW?
No,
Okay.
neither one of them. All those were in integrated schools.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
I was still in the classroom at Parker Gray, but I had prepared myself, as you mentioned, that I could do other things, and as well.
So how did this transition come, during integration?
Well, after I had when they integrated the schools, that was the end of my coaching career, and I stayed at Parker Gray for a year in the classroom, and George Washington, I guess, they knew that I had dealt with kids, and, from the coaching standpoint, and they needed in the guidance department, they integrated the guidance department, and I was, they asked me to come over there, and I dealt with all students, white and black, and I treated them all the same, and so I stayed there, and I was, and I enjoyed it, working with all the kids that are white and black.
One of the things that stands out when you talk about your progression is that people identified you as a person who could possibly fulfill the job.
Right, and at the time I had never applied. I never applied for the guidance counselor. I never applied for the assistant principal. They always asked me, somehow that they saw I worked hard and was very diligent and serious about my work, and they asked me. In fact, I would have probably preferred to have stayed as a guidance counselor, but they told me there was a need for me, and I could help more kids if I would move into administration.
So you worked hard, you were diligent, but one of the main things is you were prepared.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I go back, and way back on that one, to prepare myself was that I can remember somewhere in one of my classes, maybe I don't know whether I was in high school or in the 7th, 8th grade. It used to be in the newspapers that Russia is coming up with a 5-year plan. And I said to myself, now, a 5-year plan, what is that? What are they doing? They were saying where they want to be in 5 years. And I sort of stuck with me and applied it. And I looked at my future and I said, now, do I want to stay in the classroom, or do I want to be prepared that I could take other positions? And that stimulated me to try to be prepared.
5-year plan, right? That's
5-year plan, no more. Oh yeah. Well, right now I try to. You look now, and it's quite common to look at. They tell you, for instance, youngsters when they start to work, start looking at what it would be like in your retirement, prepare for it, and be prepared what you want to do in life. And it's a good plan. Not only we would try to emphasize to our students, what would you be doing? What do you think life's going to be like for you 5, 10 years from now?
Do you think that you stuck with the thought pattern when you were with your Army fellow soldiers in Normandy or France or Ardennes, about you were not going to be subjected to, or you were going to make life better than how it was prior to you going into the service? Right.
We would think in terms of long range, thinking, and my folks and my teachers emphasize that make it better for each generation, and that's the way they looked at it. And the elders in my little community would always take time with the youngsters and encourage us, And that's like this old saying, it takes a village to raise a kid. And they would encourage us to be better than what they have and pass it on to the next generation. And that's what it is.
So throughout all your accomplishments and things that you have done, what is one of the most memorable things that stick out in your mind as we speak?
Well, as a parent, and I have 2 sons, mm-hmm. and your grandchildren, I have 4 grandchildren, is to be able to live, to see them mature, and to see how they, my grandchildren are progressing, and just to see the things that even with the students that I've taught, and to see them mature. It's a great pleasure to see students and your family, that you have, just to see them mature and do the right things, and that's great.
And so you retired in 1985.
85, and I retired,
And what school was it that you retired from?
I was at George Washington Middle School at the time, and it's still in Alexandria. I stayed 35 years in Alexandria. I had offers to go to other places, but I felt a strong sense of loyalty to my teams and to at Alexandria, and I had no desire, to move on.
Loyalty.
Right. That means a lot to me. I thought when I was coaching that I wanted to see them, when they came out for the team, to see them graduate and see whatever fields that they wanted to get into.
So I sense the humbleness in you, and you had an impact on several generations of kids.
Mm-hmm.
If you started back in the early 50s, finished in the mid 80s, so some of the kids that you had an impact on early on in your career had children that you had an impact on. How does that make you feel?
It's a great feeling when I'm sometimes at the stores in that community and see some of them come up to me and say, "Thank you," and for what you've done. And for instance, the kids don't forget things. They just like an animal, a dog. When they're young, they remember things. Like if you do something to a dog, they never forget it, And things, sometimes they remind me of things I've done or said that I'd forgotten myself, and they remind me of it. And such a thing. For instance, even on my block, I taught a couple of kids to play chess. I'm not a great chess player or anything, but I used to like, and when they were young, and maybe about a month ago, a guy came by the house and said, "I still remember that you taught me how to play chess, and I'm still playing it today," and stuff like that, And it's just a good feeling.
So through a lot of adversity, you were actually teaching life's lessons.
Oh yeah, I was trying to get them to think of the future and everything. I grew up in the Depression, and that to see how my folks operated in the Depression, and we were. I've learned so much from them because even during the Depression, we raised our own food, canned our own food, and we were never hungry or anything. We didn't have a lot of money or anything, but they would see how they would prepare for the winter and stuff, and in long range, and I just grew up with some of those things, and I had great teachers all my life.
You talk about depression, and it in my mind as you were talking, I was just thinking, I was like, okay, depression was bad, and I could only imagine what it was like. But then I see segregation as another form of depression, and you were still able to, and I can only envision that, you were still able to rise above that and, like I said, affect different generations of people.
Well, you never let just adversity just give in to it. It makes you think. It makes you creative to think. Now here's my problem. I can remember very vividly having a teacher, one of my teachers when I was either in high school, would take a problem and says, class, this is the problem, and write it on the board. Now, how are we going to solve this problem? And he'd asked each one of us, what is your solution to the problem? And it was enlightening to me to see different solutions to a problem. Everyone would have maybe a different solution to the problem. And I often think of that, and I have a problem now. And when we make plans, what is plan A? What is plan B? Like in basketball, we would plan how our defenses are, against this team. Then I would always have plan B, or sometimes C. What if A doesn't work? What is B, if B doesn't work? What are you going to do? And it's same thing in life, in a sense. If you sit down and say that I have a problem, and say you and your wife or family would sit down and talk it over, and you'll be amazed sometimes people would come up with solutions to things that you haven't thought of, and we've always been willing to listen to someone else and see what is our solutions. And then it gives me different ideas to take off on. And that's the way life goes.
People, a lot of coaches or a lot of teachers don't really, they sort of act like you can't make mistakes.
I used to tell the players, I said, okay, we made a mistake, and I'll help you try to correct those mistakes. And, we don't, if I made a mistake in a game, I wouldn't be yelling and hollering at them, because I don't like, as I told you, I like to treat people like I like to be treated. And I didn't want anybody yelling and screaming at me. And so I would, in fact, I never talked to the guys after the game except to say, good night, fellas, I'll see you tomorrow, or something like that. We never will get into the mechanics of the game because they are emotionally on a high and I'm on an emotionally high. And but the next day, we calmly could sit down and go over everything we have done. And I learned that from my father as such, because I would ask my parents or something, could I do this? I want an answer right there, then. And he would always say, I'll sleep on it. And sometimes I would be out with him in the community and somebody asked him to do something, want something from him. And he said, well, I'll let you know tomorrow. And then he'd come home and sometimes he'd let me in on some things. He'd go over it with his, the family would go over it and analyze it. And he wouldn't make a hasty decision. I used to want him to bug him. I want answers right now, there and there. And he said to me once, he said, how many decisions do you have to make that are life and death? If somebody asks you something or you have to make a decision, it's rare that you have to make a life and death decisions right now. He said that may come up, but most decisions you have to make, you need to take your time and sit down and think about it and analyze it, But now if it's a life and death thing, of course you would have to make a decision, And I never talked to the boys, but to go and try to analyze a game that we played that same night. We would just say, okay, I'd say good night and see you tomorrow or something like that. Good game or bad, And then the next day we would calmly go down over everything and look at our mistakes and try to correct them.
That's interesting that you say that, because two things pop in my mind. The first thing is, in reading your basketball tip sheet, you're saying no foul language will be tolerated, and just to hear you say that you were more calm than irrational, and nowadays when you see how coaches who are basically supposed to be teachers, and because they are teaching, you can't even be anywhere near a huddle because of the type of language and the yelling and the posturing and the signifying that you see in these huddles nowadays. What's your thought on that?
Well, I'm amazed that sometimes we don't see better leadership from the coaches, and that the kids pick up their coaches pick up characteristics, and his coaches idiosyncrasies as well. And when I see sometimes when you watch a pro game even and see all of this posturing and stuff that the players have, I used to tell my players and don't argue with the officials. For instance, we have a captain for each game. He can timeouts. He can talk to him, or I can talk to him. And a lot of decisions are made. That you don't agree with. And everything. But it's just like I look at something. Things that happen. And where do you go from here? Like, for instance, you can't change what has happened. It's already happened. And now what can you go, where do you go from there and everything? And so some of the posturing and the players and hollering at the officials and doing the things that they're doing.
That never happened with your teams?
No, I wouldn't let them. And I doubt if I've ever had a technical foul, and I wouldn't let my players holler and yell at the and that was it. And they would. They were, and that's why, players, as I looked at it, they want to do the right things, and it's up to us to guide them. And that's why I say I wrote my poop sheet there to tell them what I expect of them and what they expect, and by the same way, token, what they expect of me. Was a two-race street, and all. And so that's the way I felt all the time.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that hit me was when you said that you would use that time after the game to the next day to reflect.
Oh, yeah.
And me as an athlete, after a game, I would go home and reflect. I would run every play back in my mind, so that really if I did have a coach such as yourself, by the time we got to the next day, I would have my thought pattern as well as you having your thought pattern,
right,
where we could get some meaningful conversation out of it.
Oh, right. I didn't like to embarrass kids sometimes if it's something sometimes I would call them in by themselves and say, and say, well, I didn't think you handled that right or something like that, and but it always, and to this day, I treat people like I like to be treated, and one of the things that I didn't want anyone to be when I was growing up. As I matured, my folks would tell me what to do and all like that, and I would do it, and everything. And so, and I just grew up like that, treating people like I like to be treated,
Now, how would you like for people to remember Arnold Thurmond?
Well, it's just remember me that someone that you can talk to or say anything that you like, and I was a helping person if any way I could help you, and that's the way I'd like to be remembered, not as so much of what I've accomplished, anything like that. I don't look at this and I'm this and I'm that, but just a down-to-earth person who would come to your aid if I could do anything to help you.
And how would you describe yourself?
I describe myself, I don't take myself seriously. I still enjoy, laugh, and play, and in fact, even with my kids or even with my grandkids, I sort of tease and play with them and enjoy, laugh with them, and I don't take myself that seriously and everything. And I have one of the things that sort of bothers me now is I see a great disrespect sometime in our younger generation for women. And I've had great respect for women because I had sisters and nieces and all my age and older. And even being married when my wife was well, I would come up with some ideas. I'd say ambitious ideas and what we're going to do and all. Then when I run it by my wife and I run it by her, and she said, well, are you stupid? I thought you were stupid. Now have you thought about this or that? And she'd be right. And I have great respect for women and their thinking, because they would point out to me things that I had never thought of I wanted to do, and then we'd come to a compromise and say, well, I say you're right, and this will work if maybe I hadn't thought of that, you see. But I see some of the younger generation, just don't have respect for women and all, and that's, to me, is sad, because everything and everyone has some contribution to make in life, and you may not agree with it, but they have a viewpoint and all like that. But it also it'll start your chain reaction to thinking about what if, maybe if this is the right way to go. What if you do this? What if you do that?
It's interesting that you say that you were one who could always take suggestions and filter it through your thought process and then make an adjustment if needed. Throughout all your successes, World War II veteran, a coach, state championships, guidance counselor, master's degree. That shows that you are a humble individual, that you're not too, you don't know it all, and And that's a good characteristic.
Well, you know, I think back to my folks when I was growing up, and they taught me respect for other people and their opinion. Said to me sometimes, well, don't think you know it all. Other people, just give them credit for being smart, just as smart as you are. And that's the way that I've operated. Sometimes some of the better ideas that I've gotten from other people by just asking them, you know, how do you handle this? I would say, for instance, even with my kids, as they've grown up and all, I'll ask them still today, I said, what do you think about if I did this or that? What do you think about it? And sometimes they'll point out a better idea than I had, you know. So I have great respect for my fellow man. And I don't think that I know it all, and I'm willing to learn, and I'm still learning.
Great respect for your fellow man.
Oh, yeah.
That's important.
That's important to me. And if I feel that you know something better than I do, and I have a sort of a problem or something, I'd come to you and ask you, what do you think? What do you think about this? This is the problem I'm having. Which way you think I should go? Or what do you think about it? I may not always follow the advice, but I know I've had input. I like to have input from other people.
You know, this talk right here is really like 5 years in the making. I can be considered stubborn or what have you, but it's interesting that you brought up how you think 5 years ahead. And this right here, you know, Mr. Dawkins always used to say, you need to go talk to Mr. Thurmond. And I believe it's because of the impact that you've had on him. Mm-hmm. And this was 5 years ago when he mm-hmm. mentioned, and he would always bring it up. And now it's actually come to fruition. And a lot of times I say to myself, and I look back and I say, wow, I should have did this sooner, you know. But I'm glad that I did this, to be able to sit and talk with you. I come away with more knowledge. I come away with knowledge about who Arnold Thurmond is and how you became who you are. And it helps me as I move along in life to be a better person, because I'm one that I'm like a sponge.
You absorb.
I absorb everything from different.
Well, I love to read, and I've always been, you know, like that. And I can remember the first time I got in the 9th grade to school at a library. Well, I had never been in a library. I had never seen a library. I had people give me books, and our teachers would give us books and all. And I would get in books. I'd check books out of the library, and I'd bring them home. And sometimes, in the first couple of years, my folks would have to say, turn that light out and get some sleep. I'd get absorbed into what I was reading. Mm-hmm. And we had, you know, and I still love to read, and so I developed that habit. And I like to say that I'm an information gatherer, and then I'd act on from that. And I would, for instance, I would ask my coworkers or sometimes, I said, what do you think? Should we do this and how we do that? And I'd get input from you know, different people. I love to be an information gatherer. and such. And then I would act on what I think is best.
I think that's a good trait, you know, to be the gatherer of information, and then, you know, you have all the information or knowledge that you need, and then you can actually make a
Better
good decision.
Yeah, that's the way I felt. And so I just feel that, you know, I've been blessed, and, you know, and to stay here this long and to see your children grow up, your grandchildren, see the people that you've taught being good parents and successful in life, you know, and you feel this is very gratifying.